capital in parts of northern Mali. They also destroyed ancient Sufi shrines, deemed heretic. But as they grew more extreme in their implementation of Sharia law, they fell out with the Tuaregs, who eventually left the radicals to run cities like Timbuktu and Gao. Already the fighting has displaced hundreds of thousands of desperately poor Malians, and aid groups say thousands more are already on the move. The battle for Mali may have begun, but it's far from being won. Naim Al-Bagir, CNN, Nairobi.
Well, public protests are extremely rare in Saudi Arabia until recently, when thousands stormed the streets to protest against the trial of Mohammed Al-Khatani, a human rights activist. As Mohammed Jamjoon reports, the deeply conservative country is becoming greatly divided.
These men are demonstrating to win the release of their relatives. In deeply conservative Saudi Arabia, where such gatherings are prohibited, activists say these types of small protests are becoming more frequent.
We are trying to push the limit so our kids will live in a world where their fundamental rights will be respected.
Mohammed Al-Qahtani is one of Saudi Arabia's most prominent human rights activists. Since 2009, he's petitioned for the release of political prisoners and advocated for reform in the absolute monarchy. His organization even crossed one of the country's ultimate red lines by being openly critical of its interior ministry, which is why rights groups weren't surprised when Al-Qahtani and his colleague Abdullah Al-Hamid were taken to court. Al-Qahtani was accused of, among other things, setting up and running an unlicensed organization and turning international organizations against the kingdom. Al-Hamid faces similar charges. If convicted, both men could spend years in prison.
This has been a systematic approach by the authorities in Saudi Arabia, namely the targeting and harassing activists across the country.
Al-Qahtani says he knows why he, Al-Hamid, and other activists were really put on trial.
Because we have been documenting human rights abuses carried out by the Saudi General Investigation Department. We have numbers of cases where people are thrown in prison arbitrarily, torture, forced disappearances.
Despite repeated efforts, we were unable to reach the Saudi government for comment. In this amateur video, anger overtakes tradition, purporting to show how even Saudi women have recently been taken to the segregated streets. Despite his prosecution, Al-Qahtani presses on, helping them file cases against the government to free their loved ones. And while the father of five says he fully expects to be found guilty in his own trial, he has no problem going to jail for what he believes in.
Maybe I'm dreaming. Just last night I was telling my wife for my newborn daughter that maybe one day she will vote for the Prime Minister in Saudi Arabia. So we are really hopeful about the future.
Mohammed Jamjoon, CNN, Beirut.
Well, more than 60,000 people have been killed so far since the violence began. Despite the mounting death toll and relentless violence, Syria's government remains steadfast that the war on terrorists will continue. We turn to this CNN report for more on the Syrian situation.
60,000 dead so far and dozens more today. On the edge of Damascus, the aftermath of an attack by a warplane. Amid the screams, 20 dead, according to locals, including 6 children, one of them buried in the rubble of his home. Syria's Air Force and Army have been targeting suburbs all day, attacking rebels, they say. The explosions resounded as I met Syria's main diplomat, a man who says he's in daily contact with Russia and who is confident. Are you winning this war?
We have started to win the war, and we shall win the war. I am very optimistic.
You are saying you have not lost control of the north and of the east?
Absolutely not, because we can go there anytime.
And the army can take back that territory anytime they want? You just need time?
Absolutely.
Is President Assad as confident as you are? You know him. What is his mood?
In fact, I take my confidence from his confidence. So his mood is always positive. It is always optimism.
If things are going as well as you say, why do you use warplanes against targets in cities?
because we want to preserve the lives of our soldiers. Can I deny the death of many Syrians? Absolutely not. But each killing of a Syrian is a tragedy by itself.
We're hearing explosions just outside the building now. Who's responsible for that? That's government shelling.
This is a shelling, this is a military aspect. I am assuring you they are not shelling cities. They are not directing themselves against innocent civilians.
He labelled the government of Turkey a terrorist government for supporting rebels. The danger is growing.
Is the danger to the Middle East, to the region, greater now than it was a year ago?
Absolutely.
The danger in Syria's biggest city, Aleppo, is clear. Civilians dying on the street today. The city divided, like the country, like the capital. Amid the airstrikes and the shelling that resound here day and night. Bill Neely, ITV News, Damascus.
Well, time now to take our second break. When we come back, we'll take a look at sports. Stay tuned in.
Discover the smiling coast of Africa.
Welcome back, and time now to join Fatou Jasseh for the sports news.
Thank you very much, Fatou. South African President Jacob Zuma today met with members of the Bafana team ahead of the start of the Africa Cup of Nations on Saturday. The Continental Showpiece event is expected to be viewed by a record number of fans from across Africa. As countries push to get a slice of the right to air live games, the Gambia will be among a host of countries enjoying this rare opportunity after the official signing ceremony of a 2-year contract between Gambia Radio and Television Services and LC2 Company. The development, as Mamoudou S. Diallo reports, provides for the airing of games by the national broadcaster.
2013 Nations Cup host South Africa might be struggling with dwindling sales of tournament tickets, but that has not dampened effort by countries on the continent to seal deals for the television rights for the biggest sporting event in Africa. The Gambia Radio and Television Services will be among a host of television channels on the continent, airing the tournament which kicks off on Saturday in Johannesburg, South Africa. The development came following the state broadcaster, through support and in this case significant financial backing from President Jammeh, signed an agreement with LC2 Media. The channel is a Benin-based media institution and has its headquarters in Paris, France. The official signing ceremony of the contract for the airing of the Nations Cup brought together officials of the Ministry of Information, Communication and Infrastructure and the Gambia Radio and Television Services and their counterparts from the Benin-based television channel. The deal is expected to provide the Gambia Radio and Television Services with unlimited airing of the forthcoming tournament, a development described by senior officials of the state broadcaster as a welcome boost to the operations of the national television. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Information, Communication and Infrastructure, Nancy Nyang, expressed words of gratitude to the LC2 Media for their trust and loyalty to the state media in particular and the government of the Gambia in general. Permanent Secretary Nyang assured the officials that the initiative will be fully utilized as expected.
We started the negotiations well before Haiti had to come into the play, but the moment he came into the play, everything went well, so we thank him very much for that. Because if it hadn't been for him, we wouldn't have had this signing to do today. This shows how important the youth is with His Excellency. He has said that anything that has to do with the youths, anything that has to do with sports, just to please the youths, the sky is the limit, as he always says.
LC2 International Media Company representative to the Gambia, Gaston Zusu, underscored the significance of this initiative not only to the